Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Hello. Welcome to this webinar session organized in the frame of the EU Industry Days 2021. I'm Bernard Kaufmann, I'm the IRIS General Manager, and I will be the moderator of this session. Regarding the first poll we have done, you have seen that there are the audiences in different countries of Europe, and that's also the purpose of this email, to give information on a topic interesting these countries. We will have another small poll in a few minutes, but generally this menti.com can also be used to address questions, and we will use and take this question at the end of the presentations in order that a dialogue can be made. So next slide, please. The industrial strategy developed by Commissioner Breton last year will be updated soon. It takes into account 14 priorities, industrial ecosystems, where the rail supply industry has been included as part of the mobility and transport ecosystem, together with automotive and shipbuilding sector. We think that standardization has a key role to play in this extent. That will be the topic of today through two aspects: the aspect of ECM, entity in charge of maintenance, and IRIS, the global system for certification of business management systems. So you see already that there are different requirements in both documents. One is based on a regulation, the other is based on a voluntary implementation and a willingness to be certified. And as global, you see as well that the two systems are assessed by certification bodies, so the same bodies. Therefore, it's interesting to see a little bit how this standardization or another element can help companies in Europe to be more competitive. Therefore, I would now immediately go to the second poll you will discover now, and I will leave you 1 minute to answer this question. Okay, thank you. We see that you can even continue to give your idea, but we see clearly that there are three elements topping here: quality, innovation, and standardization. And that's a good point, because that's also the topic today where we will discuss. So on the next slide, I will present you the speakers we have today. They will express their view on their experience and the thoughts they have on these two elements, ECM and IRIS. First, we will have Nathalie Duquesne, Project Officer, European Union Agency for Rail. Then we will have Thierry Hémet, Chairman of the IRIS Steering Committee and Vice President Quality at Alstom. Later, Louise Nietzsche, Quality System Manager at Siemens Mobility. And Markus Kleinheit, Vice President Quality and HSC Management at Knorr-Bremse, will give us also their point of view on this topic. So now let's immediately start, and I will leave the floor to Nathalie Duquesne from ERA to give us her point of view on ECM. Nathalie, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Bernard. Very happy to be here. Good afternoon, everybody, to give you some information about the scheme of entity in charge of maintenance. First, next slide, please. A summary of my presentation. I will start by what it is the maintenance of vehicles, what it is an entity in charge of maintenance, what is the maintenance system. After, we will explain the regulation 779 and also the accreditation and certification scheme. And I would like to finish by giving you the first return of experience on this type of regulation. In the next slide, you will see the ECM legal requirements, the Article 14 of the Safety Directive. To summarize, each vehicle, before it is being used on the network, shall have an entity in charge of maintenance assigned to it, and this entity shall be registered in the vehicle register. After, you will have information about what it means, the maintenance system. The ECM has to ensure that vehicles are maintained in accordance with the maintenance file of each vehicle by implementation of the necessary risk evaluation and assessment method established in the common safety method, and ensure also that its contractors implement risk control measures through the application of the CSM on monitoring. Of course, they have to ensure the traceability of the maintenance activity. That it is a requirement you can find in the Safety Directive. In the regulation 779, it's a regulation to explain the certification. And in this, any entity in charge of maintenance shall satisfy the requirements of Annex 2 of this regulation. For that, an ECM certification establishes compliance with the requirements of Annex 2, and it will be mandatory for any entity in charge of maintenance. For responsible for the maintenance of freight wagon, that it is mandatory, or which is not a highway undertaking or an infrastructure manager maintaining vehicles exclusively for its own operation. In the next slide, more information. I will not go because it is not the goal of today, but I would like to give you this slide to have more information about what type of directive and regulations that we have in relation with the ECM regulation. In green, you can see all the active regulation. In blue, the guidance material affected, for example, to CSM on risk, CSM guide on monitoring, guideline on ECM, and in orange, the different register, National Vehicle Register, ERADIS, where you can find all this information concerning the certificates, and also the recommendation for use that you can find in ERADIS. The next slide explains what type of vehicle we will speak about today. We have first the wagons, and before the regulation 779, we had the regulation 445, and each entity in charge of maintenance for the wagons shall be certified. I think in this slide it is animated, and you can see the different type of wagons concerned by this regulation. But now with this extension, we have also a certification mandatory for entity in charge of maintenance doing the maintenance for locomotive, EMU or DMU, passenger cars, and also on-track machine. That it will just to explain you which type of vehicles when we speak about entity in charge of maintenance. In the next slide, it is more explanation about the maintenance system. We have entity in charge of maintenance. They have to apply the maintenance system. We can find 4 functions, very important. The first, dedicated to management process. We have the function 2. In this function 2, it is to deliver or to establish the maintenance file. We have also the function 3. It is the fleet management task to remove from operation and return to operation vehicles, maintain. And we have the function 4, dedicated to maintenance workshop, where there is the delivery of the technical maintenance. What I would like to explain in this slide is that these 4 functions are what an ECM has to prove when he would like to have a certificate. And for the function 2, 3, and 4, this function could be outsourced, but the function 1 must be done internally in the entity in charge of maintenance. Next slide, please. Some words about accreditation scheme and certification scheme. We work very closely with European Cooperation for Accreditation, and we have now accreditation scheme endorsed by EA, where you can see the number, and also we have the certification scheme. What it is important for you, and I will explain in the next slide after, that all ECM certification body has to follow the certification scheme, and for national accreditation body who act as accreditation, they have to follow the accreditation scheme. In the next slide, some information on who can be an ECM certification body. We have 3 possibilities. You can be an ECM certification body accredited via national accreditation body, and there is, of course, a monitoring by EA on the national accreditation body. You can be recognized by the member state, but the member state has to follow the accreditation scheme to recognize you, or you can be also designated by member state. It is the case for National Safety Authority when they act as certification body. As you can see in these 3 different ways, there is a need to have a cooperation of certification body, and in this case, it is the agency who has the role to animate this cooperation of certification body to have at the end an equivalent of ECM certificate granted by certification body accredited, recognized, or by NSA. In the next slide, implementation now in Europe with a difference when we have in some country NSA as ECM certification body, or you can see also safety authority, because the regulation 779 is also has also an equivalence in COTIF, so it's the case for some non-EU OTIF country. In green, you can see a member state when they have chosen accreditation. In pink, member state when you have NSA and accreditation, and in blue, member state where they have decided to apply the recognition. In the next slide, it will be the first feedback. Now you have the link. You can have in ERADIS all the information about the certificates. So we have in the first row the number of ECM certificates valid, and now we have the first ECM certificate for locomotive, MAU, high-speed train, passenger cars, or OTM. Maybe I have to explain also that the deadline to be certified, if you are an ECM for other types of vehicle than freight wagon, is on 16th of June 2022. But as you can see, you have already some ECM certified for other types of vehicle than freight wagon. Thank you for your attention. Bernard, I give you the floor.
Thank you very much, Natalie. Thank you for this very detailed approach of ECM. So now I would like to give the floor to Thierry Aimé, IRIS Chair and Vice President Quality Alstom, to present his view on the IRIS system. Thierry, the floor is yours.
Hello, good day to everybody. So yes, I have the honor to be sorry, 2 seconds. Sorry. I am absolutely sorry. My wife is coming back from the hospital, and it's now you know that it's quite difficult to manage private and professional. Okay, absolutely sorry for that. Okay, so yes, I have the honor, I would say, to be the chairman of IRIS and to lead quality in Alstom. And next slide, please. So in fact, here we are here to speak about IRIS certification. So basically, it's really a global system to enhance, I would say, the quality in the rail industry. And what we try to go, the real goal is to reach excellence. And it's really something that is in the DNA of this standard. In addition, in fact, it's a worldwide standard. So it's an initiative from Europe, but basically it's really it's a worldwide standard. And of course, focus basically on the rail sector. And what we try to do is to have also to be focused on customer satisfaction, because basically the money is coming from the customer, and to have, I would say, two points that are key for us: the transparency. So how I would say to manage the organization by KPI and well understood KPI, to have feedback audit in order to be sure that it's readable KPI at the end, and also the trust. We need, I would say, it's something that is key because it's a long chain between supplier, customer, manufacturer, operator. And what we try to have, in fact, it's to build this trust. And it's why, in fact, we have 3 levels, a level of bronze, silver, and gold. And then, because quality and this type of, the DNA of IRIS, in fact, is continuous improvement also. And then we cannot have only one level of certification. We need to have several steps in order to drive toward excellence. So the next slide, please. So basically, we are working, and the goal of this IRIS certification is to be, I would say, valid for signaling, infrastructure, manufacturing, in terms of rolling stock. What we want also is to do a real link between this certification and the customer satisfaction, as I explained before, and to have, I would say, really a focus on quality, cost, and delivery, so the famous QCD package. Of course, it's a long chain. So what we try to have, in fact, it's not only to have, I would say, one site certified, but to have the whole chain certified. So in fact, it's why we drive, I would say, this certification, not only for, I would say, big, large group, but also with small supplier. And then the goal of IRIS, in fact, is not to be focused only on big manufacturer, but also to small entity, because the goal of this standard is to drive excellence and to have a company that is absolutely efficient. So the next slide, yeah. So basically, what we can say here is that it's a European project, but what we have tried to do, in fact, is to be worldwide, and we are worldwide, because here you can see that we have more than 2,000, I would say, IRIS certificates in 33 different countries, but in America, in Asia, in Africa. So in fact, even I would say, if it was, I would say, an initiative from Europe, basically, you can see that now the number of certificates are more important in Asia Pacific than in Europe today. But it's a never-end story. We are working to improve, I would say, the system, but also the standard. We try to have something that is really well adapted and to have control of all the actors. It's key for us also to have a reliable assessment. So you are working a lot in order to be sure that when we say that somebody is silver or bronze or certified, in fact, it's something that is absolutely reliable, and then we can trust and even avoid to do some additional audit because we trust on this certification. The next one. So, and if we do focus in Europe, and here we have to speak about ECM and IRIS also, is that we have, I would say, 231 IRIS certificates that have been already awarded for, I would say, maintenance activity in Europe. So, in fact, it's not only for new build, but it's also for maintenance. We have, I would say, 16 exclusive and 18 in 18 countries, basically. So in fact, maintenance is also one of the key items and objective of IRIS. Next slide, please. So yeah, absolutely, we have some common goal. We want to secure our knowledge, and in fact, it's something that we can see in the two standards. We want to demonstrate and to prove, to show conformity. We are focused on customer needs. We need to have a confidence. So you have seen with the presentation just before that the confidence of what is done in order to ensure safety is absolutely key for the two standards. And of course, it's based on evidence, documented, because it's not only word. It's really, I would say, documented evidence. And for sure, the requirement, we have some common focus, and we have a possible cooperation between the two standards. It's absolutely obvious, and especially for the site who are doing maintenance. I think that it's something that we have to think about how to build, I would say, on the common part that we have with the two standards. And I think that we can go to the next one. That is, I think, the end of the presentation.
Yeah, thank you, Thierry, for this very detailed also presentation and first insight in the IRIS scheme. I think
I'm sorry for the disturbance, I would say, for the group, but you know, life is life. And
okay, thank you very much. Let's now give the floor to Louise, who will give you the insight from system integrator position. Louise, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Bernard. Good afternoon to everyone. My name is Louise Nitsche, and I'm a Quality Systems Manager within Siemens Mobility, with focusing on IRIS certification. I am in charge of managing the IRIS certification community within Siemens Mobility, and I am part of several IRQB working groups. What I would like to introduce to you today is a systems integrator view on how we would benefit of the cooperation between ECM and IRIS certification. Then we can go to the next slide, please. Yes, I would be interested in what certificates does your company hold? So it looks like most of you are holding both certificates, IRIS certification as well as ECM. And of course, there are some more who have only the IRIS certification. So you can go on voting. This is really interesting for me, and I would like to go on with my presentation. First of all, I would like to introduce our product portfolio to you. As a system integrator, we are a very diversified and vertically integrated mobility company. We are offering to our customers products and solutions for rail automation and electrification, short distance, regional and long distance rolling stock, as well as product and system solutions for passengers and freight transport. Complete turnkey rail solution integrating the entire portfolio. Maintenance services for rolling stock and rail infrastructure throughout the entire life cycle, as well as intermodal solutions and intelligent traffic systems. Due to our wide product portfolio, we have very many requirements on our business management system, which you will see on the next slide. Our integrated business management system has to fulfill various standards and regulations regarding quality, safety, health, and a lot more. It is influenced by customer and legal requirements. Since our business is mainly in the rail sector, as you could see on the slide before, IRIS certification is our basis. It covers all important aspects of our business management system. We have all IRIS activities in place: design, manufacturing, and maintenance, and sometimes even all of them at one site. There are requirements by the customers which differ depending on the products or services they order. For example, customers who order maintenance activities are focusing on ECM. In comparison, customers explicitly request IRIS certification when ordering products or projects in the area of rolling stock or rail infrastructure. Furthermore, ECM is a mandatory legal requirement in case of maintenance activities. We, as a system integrator, have to make sure that our business management system fulfills the requirements of IRIS certification as well as ECM. We benefit from the implementation of these standards with the result of better processes, performance, and safety. On the next slide, I would like to have a deeper look at the schemes of IRIS certification and ECM. IRIS certification is more generic and comprehensive. Compared to that, ECM is more maintenance specific. If you have a look at this generic overview of IRIS certification and ECM, you will see that both standards have a lot in common. On the top, you can see the high-level ISO structure. Then there is a schematic overview of the requirements of the ISO TS 22163. The bright green boxes indicate that these requirements are identical from IRIS certification and ECM. In comparison, the dark green boxes signal that the requirements that IRIS certification additional imposes. Within the dark green boxes, there are some examples of IRIS requirements listed, which are very helpful for maintenance organizations. For example, if we have a look at the operations chapter, there are valuable requirements like project management, requirements management, RAMS and LCC, as well as obsolescence management, which could help maintenance organizations to improve their processes. Regarding the performance evaluation chapter, I would like to highlight the mandatory and optional process KPIs and the mandatory process reviews, which have to be performed on a yearly basis. Furthermore, IRIS certification gives a transparent overview of the customer perception and process performance of a company. The box below shows the requirements of ECM. Again, the bright green boxes indicate the requirements which both systems have in common. Within those boxes, I wrote the headlines of the ECM regulations to illustrate the affiliation. The muted green boxes show the requirements of ECM, which are not completely covered by IRIS certification. IRIS certification covers about 80% of the ECM requirements, which is, from my point of view, quite a lot. We realized within Siemens Mobility that sites that were first IRIS certified and later decided to become ECM certified did not have so much additional work in implementing the ECM requirements because almost of all requirements are already covered by this management system. Since there is so much overlapping of both systems, it would be a great opportunity for a cooperation between IRIS certification and ECM from my point of view. Companies would really benefit of that. We could focus in the audits on the differences, which would be a lot more effective. Furthermore, the inhibition threshold for sites to implement both systems would be much lower. Sometimes even the same certification body audits both systems. In Article 6 of the EU Regulation 402/2013, it says, any duplication of work regarding assessment shall be avoided regarding maintenance and safety management system. Why can this not be applicable for IRIS certification and ECM as well? From my point of view, would that be a very good starting point for a further cooperation? If we go to the next slide, I would like to summarize my presentation. Siemens Mobility delivers different products and services for the rail sector. Therefore, we have one integrated management system that covers several standards and regulation, including IRIS certification and ECM. As I explained on the slide before, ECM and IRIS certification have very many the same requirements. IRIS certification covers about 80% of the ECM requirements. Mutual acceptance of the same requirements increases our effectiveness. Our management system, which is based on IRIS certification, fulfills most of the ECM requirements. Siemens Mobility would really benefit from a cooperation between IRIS and ECM, like a lot of other companies, I think. The audit effort could be reduced and we could focus on additional requirements, which would bring us business value and increase our effectiveness. I hope it was interesting for you. Thank you very much. And now I would like to hand over back to Bernard.
Thank you, Louise, for sharing this experience with us. And now I would ask Markus Kleinheit from Knorr-Bremse to give also the view from an equipment manufacturer on both systems. Markus, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Bernard. Hello, everybody, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Markus Kleinheit, and I just want to relay and give you our view to the both standards, ISO TS and the ECM. And I just want, please the next slide. I just want to start with a couple of bullet points. You heard most of them already, but I just wanted to emphasize a couple of things again. The IRIS, the ISO standard, is an international quality management system standard that we are using in the railroad manufacturing and also for our suppliers. It is published by ISO and it can be voluntarily certified. So this is not a must, it is voluntarily. If I look now to the ECM, the ECM is mandatory. It's a mandatory directive, and it is applicable for the railroad manufacturers, suppliers of equipment components, as well as engineering service providers. It can be certified by the national safety authorities. So here we are already having a little difference than to the IRIS and the certification bodies. So I think these are a couple of things that I just wanted to mention here again to the both standards. So next slide, please. If I look now to the benefits, and I think we always have to look what is a standard bringing for us and what benefits do we have. And we at Knorr-Bremse think that the IRIS standard is strengthening our processes and also the monitoring and the product performance significantly. We are seeing also the IRIS as a continual improvement process for our organization. We have, for example, the assessments of the maturity of our processes and our doing. Guiding the organization with methods and tools. I think this is also something that you have always to implement methods and tools that are standard, that are valid then for everybody. We are also seeing by using IRIS that it's improving our partnership with our customers, and also it's building up trust. Therefore, we can say it's also increasing competitiveness in the world out there. Also, I want to emphasize one more time to say it's improving this trust and partnership in the railway sector. So if you are certified according to this standard, you know, everybody knows that the companies are performing in that way. Harmonized rail quality management systems is also being enhanced. All right, so let's move to the next slide, please. ECM. Now, if you look at some bullets now, the benefits for Knorr-Bremse for the ECM, I can say that we are strengthening systematically the process of our product performance by using ECM. We are focusing on risk management and product safety within the maintenance activities. We are also increasing legal certainty by verified and validated processes. We are guiding the organization with methods and tools. We are providing then also trust and partnership to our customers. And we also see that we are increasing our competitiveness for other people that are not applying the ECM standard. And again, also here, improving trust and partnership. I just want to emphasize this one more time. So please, the next slide. If you are now looking to summarize this, we can say most of the ECM regulatory requirements are already included within the IRIS. There are, but also some additional things that have to be focused on, and special focus is going to the risk management and product safety within the maintenance activities, procedures, documentation, and the records, and also competence management applied to the maintenance delivery function and safe delivery of maintenance. All right, so if we see all this, then we can say, jumping to the next slide, that we, as Louisa already mentioned, that we have many synergies, and we would like really and love to use these synergies. And if we are looking also to enhancing processes, avoiding double work, for us it would be very, very good if the IRIS standard, you know, the parts that are equal, and Louisa showed a very nice overview about this, that we would really be able to use these chapters so that they are not being re-audited. And therefore we want to bring, you know, this to the table and say if the European legislation, it would be in our eyes very important to look into that. And since this is an European standard, that you support this with a member of the European Parliament, that we are really using the synergies and have the recognition in order to use the both standards and use the benefits like I just explained. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Markus, for expressing the point of view of the rail supply chain. I would now, after all this presentation, start a small question and answer session. We got already some questions. Please don't hesitate to use Menti to ask other questions to our expert. That's one question raised up to now, and I think this is for Natalie about the fact to be ECM certified when you maintain gearboxes. Natalie?
Okay, thank you, Bernard. Yes, about this question, we receive already this type of question for the previous one regulation only for freight wagon. It is not the objective of the regulation to give this type of certificate to provider of maintenance. Perhaps it will be more about certificate of maintenance workshop. Of course, as I explained just before, it is not mandatory for a maintenance workshop to be certified, but it can be useful, for example, if they want to work with an ECM. The main objective of this regulation is more on the capability of an ECM to manage these all functions. So if you are a provider of maintenance for example, in these gearboxes or single railway components, if you make the maintenance of these components and you can be integrated in the activity of an ECM, maybe it will be useful for you to be certified, because it will be proof and evidences that you can work properly on your components and especially on the maintenance. But the main objective of the regulation 779 is more focus on the ECM. And of course, if you want, you can ask an ECM, but it will be more on a voluntary base. It is not mandatory for you, but it could be useful to show to an ECM that you work correctly with the requirements that we put as requirements for a certificate of maintenance workshop.
Thank you, Natalie. So I would now raise a question to all of you. The question is the following. It's rather an aspect of the implementation of the standards. What requirement would a maintenance organization benefit from if they implement IRIS certification in addition to ECM? So maybe first, Thierry, what is your opinion on that?
I think in addition with ECM, what is quite, I would say, in the DNA of IRIS, it's to be focused on excellence, efficiency, and customer satisfaction. Customer satisfaction and trust, for sure, it's something that is common between the two standards. But I would say how to be focused on efficiency and excellence, I think it's something that is a little bit more requested in the IRIS standard. And I think that the benefit will be to be not only compliant, but to be efficient.
Okay, thank you, Thierry. Same question to you, Louise. What is your point of view here?
Yes, I think as well that especially IRIS certification is very focused on customer perception. And I think that is very beneficial for all of the organizations. Further, IRIS certification requires a mandatory process of project management and requirements management. And I think those processes could be very good for maintenance organizations as well, especially if we think of the requirements management process. It helps the organizations to analyze and understand the requirements of the customers even better. Then we have in the operations chapter the RAMS and LCC requirements, And especially for maintenance organization, it would be good for them to analyze the field data and providing the data for further improvement of the companies.
Thank you, Louise, for this statement. Markus, from your side, what could you answer to this point?
I think, Bernard, everything was already said by Thierry and Louise. There's nothing to add from my side.
Okay. Natalie, do you have an idea? I know you are the specialist of ECM, but maybe to have an insight on what you saw, what is for you maybe important for companies over the fact to have an ECM for maintenance. What is important in another aspect maybe? What is your in view on that?
Okay, thank you, Bernard. After the presentation of my colleagues, I realized that we have a lot of overlap between the requirements between IRIS, especially on maintenance activity, and ECM. And for me, my first idea is maybe when you have an IRIS certificate, and if you would like to be an ECM certified, I'm sure that all the requirements on the function 1 about the management of the maintenance could be covered by the assessment that already done with the IRIS certification. And I think that it could be interesting. We have seen that maybe the main differences is for an ECM certificate, there is and on-site, there is different on-site inspection. It is not only documentation review, but I think there is a part of documentation review which can be assessed, or where we can have some evidences, or to help the ECM certification body to work on this, because the ECM certification body knows that the company has already an IRIS certificate, and on some points concerning the management, concerning the improvement, the documentation review, it could be useful. And as Louise explained, we would like to avoid duplication of assessment. It could be interesting to make this type of link and to have the benefits to be IRIS certified when you ask an ECM certificate.
Thank you, Natalie, for this interesting point of view. As a next question, Markus, I would like to ask you, you are, as Knorr-Bremse, having the obligation to fulfill already 2 regulatory schemes for the ECM and for the TSIs for the OEM products. How can IRIS help you to interrelate all these processes? Because one is rather in the maintenance at the end of the project, and the other is already in the development. What is for you a very important point in IRIS which helps you to manage all this very efficiently? I think we have lost Markus. So in the way when he's coming back, let me ask a question to Louise. From your system integrator perspective, how is implementation in the maintenance business really possible if you want to go down at this maintenance level?
Should I answer, or do you want to give back to Markus first?
Please, something is not working here in my computer. Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you.
Something is frozen up here. Louise, could you go, please?
Okay. So Bernard, your question is how we implement.
Yeah, as a system integrator, how can you implement these requirements in the maintenance business, which is rather also at the end of the process?
Well, we have different, as I explained in my presentation, we have different products in our portfolio. First of all, we have an organization which covers maintenance activities only. They are only responsible for maintenance activities. For them, of course, the ECM is very important. Then we have organizations which cover both. They have manufacturing and maintenance activities. So for them, it is different because they have all the requirements within design and development, manufacturing, and maintenance. And for them is the IRIS certification the most important.
Okay.
From Alstom also, it's the most important because then we are able to do a link between the maintenance, the MDBF, and the improvement of a new fleet also. So in fact, we are able to close the loop in terms of design in order to have train much more reliable.
Okay, thank you, Thierry. Now I have a question coming from the audience for Natalie. The question states that the person thinks that they have to use the SAIT tool from 16 June 2020 on. And the question is, what has to be registered and how?
Okay. Thank you for this question. It's true that we have in our regulation the article 4 part 6 about the use of SAIT tool. It's something new in comparison of the regulation 445. Perhaps some words about this new requirement. We put the requirement because what it is also important is to increase the communication between the different highway stakeholders. The ECM is not alone to work. Of course, when they have to decide to build the maintenance plan, they have to request the technical file from the manufacturer, and there is a need to increase the exchange between these different actors. So it was the reason that we put this new article in the regulation. Of course, the SAIT tool is not something new. It was at the beginning, 4 years ago, to give opportunity to the sector to exchange information, but it was not mandatory. Now it will become mandatory for ECM to report information concerning maintenance activity, especially when the ECM thinks that it could have a safety aspect to exchange, to see for the user, to alert the user. But we are at this moment working on this use of SAIT with the sector. We have organized the kickoff meeting of a task force in January. We will have another meeting in March, and we hope that with the sector, I learned this morning that UNIFE as also an application guide on this SAIT tool. We have to work together to be able to provide some recommendation to explain to the ECM what they have to do with this tool.
Okay, very clear, Natalie. Thank you. My last question would be to Thierry. We have seen in the different presentation that there are some differences in the requirement. According Louise's evaluation, roughly 20%, where there are more requirement on one side or different ones, for instance, requirements linked to HR or to environment on the ECM side. And if I go on the other side at IRIS, we have now a focus on performance and so on. Do you think that this aspect of performance is important or can become even more important for the maintenance business in the perspective of the ECM certification?
I don't want to speak about ECM because here I have more the cap of IRIS, I would say, but basically I think that I will try to give an answer that is global. The maintenance activity is something that is key for our customer. Really key because in fact it brings availability and satisfaction of the passenger. And for sure, the safety, the railway safety is one of the parts, but also I would say the availability of the fleet is something that is key. And the availability of the fleet is linked with the efficiency process. So yes, I would say IRIS is really something that will bring, I would say, satisfaction to our customer because we will bring more and more, I would say, efficiency to have more and more reliable train. It's something that is in the DNA of IRIS, that to search this efficiency for the company and for, I would say, the customer of the company. So I think that, yes, IRIS is absolutely, I would say, one of the good standards to support the maintenance actor in the railway industry, for sure. And I have understood also that some things that about risk analysis, etc. It's I would say it's true that risk analysis is something that is in ECM, but basically we have that also in IRIS. So I think that there's some common part that are for me, even if it's more strong in ECM for railway safety, I would say it's something that is also in the standard of IRIS. So yeah, my answer is that IRIS is absolutely a good standard for maintenance activity. Yeah, for sure.
Thank you very much, Thierry. I think this was the last statement today. Thank you very much for all of you. We have now reached the end of this seminar. I would really like to thank all our speakers for their contributions and also the audience for their interest they had in joining us today. As you can see on this slide now, you can also watch again this session. It's available on the UNIFE website, and you will find the link to see again this session. So thank you very much, everybody, and keep safe, I would say, given the current situation, and hope to see you again, or hear you again later on in the IRIS or the ECM certification process. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Goodbye.